The speech really consisted of two parts. There's the written, prepared text of the speech, and there's that part of the speech which he speaks extemporaneously, was not contemplated by the original text. My role is that I had drafted, for Dr. King's use and consideration, a summary of ideas that we had talked about on at least 2 or 3 occasions prior to August 28th. So that I frequently hear people say that Dr. Jones crafted the I Have a Dream speech. That is not true. What I did simply was to draft the text, the wording of the first 7 paragraphs. I did not realize that they were going to be the first 7 paragraphs until I heard them. And then to that 7 initial opening paragraphs, he added his own paragraphs. And there came a point when, while he was reading from the text of the speech, a shout from his favorite gospel singer, Mahalia Jackson, who was on the podium, and she shouted to him, "Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream." I noticed when she shouts to him that he looks over at her in real time momentarily, but then he takes the text of the written speech that has been prepared and he slides it to the left side of the lectern, grabs the lectern, looks out on more than 250,000 people there assembled. And I turned to the person standing next to me, whoever that is, I can't remember. I said, "These people out there, they don't know it, but they're about ready to go to church." From there, after, the balance of the speech in real time was extemporaneously spoken and spontaneously spoken, so that that portion of the speech, which is most celebrated in this country and around the world, the I Have a Dream speech, that is not the speech that he planned to give.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
When I first heard Dr. King use the phrase, "I have a dream," I thought it was very poetical and very creative. I thought it played up to his strengths as a orator, as someone who could speak and write images. In the book that I wrote, Behind the Dream, the making of the speech that transformed a nation, I say that I had seen Dr. King speak several times before. Never had I ever heard him speak that way as I heard him speak on Wednesday, August 28th. It was with such passion. It had such a timbre, a certain quality. In the book, I said it was like watching or capturing lightning in a bottle. He was the moral compass of our nation, the preeminent 20th century apostle of nonviolence. He was appealing to the conscience of America to be the best that we can be, and he was doing it in real time, knowing, even stating clearly, this may not happen today, but I have such confidence and belief in America that it will happen. Why? Because I believe that one day my 4 children will, future tense, not today, not on August 28th, not on August 29th, will someday be judged by the content of the color. So that he had a very prophetic belief in America. Dr. King, in my opinion, would view the progress that we've made in the civil rights movement as being uneven but substantial, and that the the greatest challenge with respect to progress is not equal access of opportunity mandated by laws, but equal access of opportunity as created by the availability of wealth, the availability of economic resources. And one of the roots of addressing that problem is dealing with the question of better education. You're not going to be able to create a class or a group of African Americans that are going to be qualified to get better jobs unless they also are educated to do that. So education is also a result of state policy. Is the state prepared to put resources to ensure that African Americans have substantially the same economic resources to get an education as anyone else has? Because that's the key to gaining economic equality. I happen to believe that the election of Barack Obama, never characterized in the words in which I'm now going to use, but I believe that the election was an indirect form of referendum on race in America, and that in 2008, the majority of people wanted to vote to show to themselves and to the world that they had the capacity to elect an African American president. Dr. King, in response to the Trayvon Martin case, would have said virtually identically the same thing that President Obama said. He would have said that the case reflected a disparity in difference in the application of law to African American young men and those who are not African American young men.
Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history.
Dr. King would be disappointed in the results of the Trayvon Martin case, fearful that this may be replicated in other communities, and he would articulate his disappointment, but he wouldn't just preach or speak about it. He would remember that at the end of the day, change came about for African Americans through the exercise of the vote. Probably the most important piece of legislation, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So Dr. King would say what I say, and that is, it's one thing to complain about the Trayvon Martin case, but to complain about the Trayvon Martin case and to be unregistered, not registered to vote, means that you're not serious. You're not serious. Because nothing fundamentally happens in America without the exercise of political power and change. It never has, and it never will. I am not in a position to say authoritatively that Dr. King would have opposed same-sex marriage or would have endorsed same-sex marriage. I am in a position to interpret his body of work and say that he knew that the basis of his Christian teaching was that Jesus, God, loves everyone. And I find it hard to believe that in his interpretation of the teachings of the Christian religion, that God would stop loving a person or persons because they decided to love one another of the same sex. I find that hard to believe. It was on April 3rd, the evening of April 3rd, 1968. He called me from Memphis, Tennessee, giving me some sense of what had happened earlier that day in Memphis, and also reconfirming that I would be coming down to Memphis the following day by plane. That was the last conversation I had with him. I was rushing to the airport to go down to Memphis on April 4th when my phone rang, and I answered the phone. It's Harry Belafonte, and I say, Harry, I can't talk to you. I'm rushing to the airport. He said, no, you got to talk to me. Martin's been shot. I said, what are you talking about? He said, turn on the television, and hung up the phone. And subsequently, I learned that he had been assassinated.